My name is Linda, 34 years old. When my older sister Carol called me that afternoon, I should have let it go to voicemail, but curiosity and years of habit made me answer. Carol always had that kind of pull over me, a strange gravity I could never quite resist. She started sweetly, with her usual sing-song tone. "Evie, honey, I need a favor. Just 1 week, and I'll make it worth your while." That favor turned out to be babysitting her 7 children while she prepared for her 3rd wedding. 7. Kids. I teach high school teenagers for a living. I thought I could handle it. But Carol's kids were a different species altogether, spoiled, scattered, and raised more by their nannies than their mother. We grew up with nothing, just an alcoholic mother, an absent father, and empty kitchen shelves. I clawed my way out by earning a degree, becoming a teacher, paying my own rent. Carol clawed her way out by marrying money. She'd made an art of it. Charm a lonely rich man, have a baby, cash the checks. When the marriage soured, she'd walk away with a house, alimony, and another ring on her finger before long. This 3rd wedding was supposed to be her forever one, or so she claimed. Her fiancé Dean was a 40-year-old business consultant, quiet, clean, stable. The kind of man Carol usually got bored of within a year. "I'll pay you $2,500 for the week," I told her. "That's still a discount compared to a real babysitter." She gasped. "Avie, you're my sister, not a stranger. You shouldn't be charging me anything." "Because I'm your sister, you know exactly why I'm charging you." After an hour of arguing, she grudgingly agreed to pay $1,000 up front and another $1,500 a day before the wedding. I accepted, half expecting her to back out. She always did. When she dropped the kids off 3 days later, she breezed into my house like a celebrity on a press tour. Designer bag, oversized sunglasses, expensive perfume masking her stress. "Dean's stressing about the guest list," she said, rolling her eyes. "You wouldn't believe how dramatic rich people can be." I forced a smile. "You're marrying one, Carol." She laughed lightly but didn't deny it. Then she leaned down to hug the youngest, a 4-year-old girl named Maddie, and whispered something that sounded like, "Mommy will fix everything soon." When she left, my small apartment fell into chaos within minutes. Crayon marks on the walls, snack wrappers everywhere, screaming toddlers, a moody teen, and triplet boys who treated the couch like a trampoline. I tried to set boundaries, but they looked at me like I was a substitute teacher they could easily outsmart. That first night, I sat on the edge of my bed scrolling through Carol's Instagram feed. Her captions were all about second chances and true love finding its way. In one photo, Dean stood beside her in a gray suit, smiling stiffly. His eyes told a different story, polite, not passionate. Around midnight, I overheard whispers outside the guest room door. Carol's oldest son, 15, was talking to his sister. "Do you think Lucas is going to come?" he asked. His sister shrugged. "He said maybe, but Mom told him to stay away this time." "She always says that before a wedding." They both giggled. I froze. Lucas. The name prickled something in the back of my mind. Years ago, Carol had mentioned a boyfriend named Lucas when she was still married to husband number 2. I'd assumed she'd dumped him. Apparently not. The next morning, while making pancakes, I noticed one of the triplets scrolling through Carol's phone that she'd accidentally left behind. The lock screen lit up. Message from L. "Did you tell him yet?" I snatched the phone before he could press anything. My heart pounded. Dean's wedding was in 5 days, and Carol's messages looked like a landmine waiting to explode. When I called her about the phone, she brushed it off. "Oh, that old thing? Just keep it. I'll grab it later. Dean bought me a new one anyway." Her voice was clipped, nervous. That night, my boyfriend Mark came over to help with the kids. While we cleaned the kitchen, he asked, "You okay? You've been quiet." I told him about the weird text and the whispers about Lucas. He frowned. "If that guy shows up, your sister's life could blow up." "I know. Wouldn't be the first time," he added softly. He wasn't wrong. 2 days later, Carol texted me out of nowhere. "Change of plans. You'll only get the $1,000. The rest is your wedding gift to me." I read the message twice, my jaw tightening. I called her immediately, but she didn't answer. The audacity. After everything, after years of watching her lie, cheat, and leave destruction behind, she still thought I'd just take it. That night, I sat alone at the dining table surrounded by spilled cereal, sticky plates, and laughter from the kids' room. My chest burned with fury and humiliation. For once, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. If she wanted a perfect wedding, I was going to make sure she remembered it forever. As I turned off the kitchen light, Carol's old phone buzzed on the counter again. Another message from Elle. Can't wait to see you in white, baby. I stared at it, and something inside me hardened. The next morning, I decided I was going to her wedding, not as a guest, as a reckoning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Carol's smirk in that text. Your wedding gift to me. My stomach twisted with anger, but underneath the rage was something darker, humiliation. She had always treated me like the poor little sister who should be grateful for scraps. Not this time. By sunrise, my decision was made. I ironed my plain blue dress, the one I wore for parent-teacher meetings, and looked in the mirror. My hands were trembling, but my voice was steady when I said to my reflection, "You're done being her fool." Mark tried to stop me. "Evie, you don't need to go. Just block her. Walk away." But I couldn't. She used me, Mark. Again. She thinks I'm too scared to push back. I'm not letting her win this time. He sighed and kissed my forehead. Then be careful, okay? Don't let her drag you down to her level. That last line echoed in my head the entire drive to the wedding venue, a rented estate on the outskirts of town. I could already picture the scene. The manicured gardens, expensive champagne, a photographer capturing Carol's best angles. She'd probably told everyone I was too busy to attend. I parked a block away, then walked the rest of the distance, my heels sinking into the gravel. The air smelled of roses and rain, and somewhere inside, a string quartet was rehearsing. Everything was perfect. Until I showed up. Through the window, I saw Carol in her wedding gown. White lace, low back, perfect curls pinned just right. She was surrounded by bridesmaids laughing too loudly, pretending not to notice the tension in the room. I spotted Dean near the entrance, talking to the wedding planner. He looked nervous, like most grooms do before a ceremony, straightening his tie, glancing at his watch, oblivious to the storm coming his way. My heart hammered as I approached him. "Excuse me, Dean?" He turned. His polite smile faltered as if trying to place me. "Yes." "I'm Linda, Carol's sister." "Ah," he nodded slowly. "I've heard about you. Carol said you couldn't make it today." "I wasn't invited," I said flatly, "but you should hear what she didn't tell you." His brow furrowed. "Is everything all right?" "No," I whispered. "You need to know what kind of woman you're marrying." I told him everything. How Carol had baby-trapped her last two husbands, how she'd been seeing someone named Lucas the entire time, and how even her kids whispered about him showing up at the wedding. Dean's face turned pale. "Lucas?" "Yes. Check her phone if you don't believe me. You'll find messages from him. Today. Right now." He didn't say a word, just stared past me, his jaw tightening. I could see the realization forming, piece by piece, like glass shattering inside him. "Thank you," he said finally. "You should go now." I nodded. My hands were cold as I walked away. Outside, the string quartet switched to a cheerful tune. Somewhere behind me, the first raindrops began to fall. I didn't stay to see what happened next. I couldn't. By the time I got home, the sky had turned dark and heavy. Mark was sitting on the couch with the kids watching cartoons. He looked up. "You did it, didn't you?" I didn't answer. I just poured myself a glass of water and sat in silence, listening to the rain tapping against the window. Hours later, my phone buzzed violently on the counter. Carol. The first text, "Carol, you ruined everything." Then another, "Carol, he left before the ceremony. You think this is funny? You think you're better than me?" Then a third, "Carol, I'm coming over." Before I could respond, headlights flared through the curtains. Her car screeched to a stop in front of my house. Mark moved toward the door, but I stopped him. "No, I'll handle it." I opened the door to find Carol standing in the rain, mascara running, veil half torn, her white gown soaked, and clinging to her body. She looked feral. "You couldn't stand to see me happy, could you?" she screamed, voice cracking. "You've always been jealous of my looks, my life, everything." I stared at her, heart pounding, but voice calm. "Jealous? You owe me money, Carol. You lied to me. You used me." "You think you're righteous?" she spat. "You think that makes you better than me? At least I fight for what I want. You just hide behind your morals because you're too scared to get dirty." For a moment I saw it, the fear behind her rage. She wasn't angry because I'd ruined her scheme. She was terrified because someone had finally pulled her mask off. "Take your kids," I said coldly, "and get out of my house. If you don't, I'm calling CPS." Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't." "Try me." For a few seconds, the only sound was the rain and the muffled cries of her youngest from the back seat. Then she turned and stormed toward the car, heels snapping against the pavement. Through the window, I saw a man sitting in the passenger seat. A man I didn't recognize. He looked straight at me before Carol got in. Dark hair, sharp eyes, calm, almost smug. Lucas. The car sped off, leaving tire marks on the wet road. I stood there, soaked to the bone, heart racing, realizing the truth. My sister hadn't just been lying to her fiancé. She'd been living two lives, and I had just destroyed both. 3 days passed after the wedding explosion, but the silence was deafening. No calls, no messages, not even from Mom, which, in our family, was never a good sign. Then, one humid evening, my phone rang. "Avi," my mother's voice crackled through, fragile but insistent. "Come by tomorrow, we need to talk about your sister." I almost hung up. "Mom, I'm not getting dragged into this again." "Please," she interrupted softly, "you owe her that much." Those words, "you owe her," struck a nerve. I'd spent my entire life paying emotional debts I never signed up for. Still, against all logic, I went. My mother lived with our uncle now, in the same sagging 2-story house we'd grown up visiting as kids. The paint peeled from the walls, the air thick with cigarette smoke and nostalgia that refused to die. She greeted me at the door, wearing an old floral robe, her hair gray and uncombed. I couldn't remember the last time she looked at me with warmth. "You look tired," she said, handing me a mug of instant coffee. "I hear you've been busy." "Word travels fast," I muttered, sinking into the worn couch. She sat across from me, her hands trembling slightly as she lit a cigarette. "You shouldn't have done what you did, Linda." I let out a humorless laugh. "What, tell the truth?" "No," she said coldly. "Interfere. You don't understand the consequences." I stared at her, stunned. "Mom, she was scamming a man out of his money. She's been doing this for years. You knew that?" My mother exhaled smoke, eyes dull but calm. "Of course I knew. We all did." For a moment I thought I'd misheard. "All?" "Me, your uncle, Lucas, everyone except you." The room tilted slightly as her words sank in. "You're saying you were all in on it?" She nodded, as if discussing grocery bills. "Carol's been supporting this family for over a decade. The money she got from those men, it paid for this house, for your uncle's medicine, for my rent. She even helped your cousin through college. You think that kind of money came from luck?" I set down the mug before my hands betrayed me. "You're telling me my sister's entire life has been and you just accepted it?" "She's a survivor," Mom said, her voice rising. "After what we went through, after how your father left us, she learned how to fight back. You never understood that." "No," I said quietly, "because I actually worked for what I have." Her eyes narrowed. "And what do you have, Linda? A tiny apartment? A boyfriend who barely makes ends meet? You could have had more if you weren't so damn proud." That one hit deep. She always knew where to cut. I stood up, pacing. "You're all unbelievable. You let her lie, cheat, manipulate, and for what? So you can live off her blood money?" "It's not about money," Mom said, her tone softening. "It's about survival. You've always been the moral one, Linda, but morals don't pay bills." I clenched my jaw. "So that's why she called me to babysit? To save a few bucks before her next scam?" Mom hesitated. "Lucas lost his job last month. Their nanny got sick. They were desperate. She thought maybe her sister could help. Family to family." I laughed bitterly. "Right, family. The same family that cut me out because I didn't want to play dirty." Her silence was answer enough. Then came the final blow. "You know why she never sent you money, Linda?" I turned to face her, expecting some twisted excuse. "Because we decided it would only complicate things. One more mouth to feed, one more person to divide the money with. It was a business decision." I stared at her, the air leaving my lungs. A business decision. That's all I'd ever been to them. An inconvenience in their financial equation. "Unbelievable," I whispered. "You shouldn't have told Dean," she said again, quieter this time. "Carol really loved him. He was supposed to be her last one. She promised she'd stop after this. She wanted a normal life." I turned toward the window, rain streaking the glass like a slow drip of guilt. "Normal? She lied about her kids, Mom. She hid 7 human beings from him. You call that love?" "She was trying to change," Mom said softly. "You just didn't give her a chance." Something inside me cracked. For years, I'd thought my mother's neglect came from weakness, not choice. But now I realized it was loyalty, not to her daughters, but to whichever one kept her fed. I grabbed my bag. "You know what, Mom? Maybe I don't belong in this family, because I still believe there's a difference between surviving and scamming." She looked up at me, her voice sharp again. "Don't you dare turn your back on us, Linda. You're still part of this family, whether you like it or not. No, I said, standing in the doorway. Not anymore. As I stepped outside, I caught the faint sound of her voice, almost pleading this time. Help her fix it, Evie. You're the only one she'll still listen to. The screen door slammed behind me. For the first time, I didn't look back. But as I walked to my car, her words echoed through the rain. Help her fix it. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this mess, this twisted web of lies and blood, was far from over. I didn't plan to see Dean again. After everything, I wanted to wash my hands of the whole disaster. But guilt has a way of whispering when the world goes quiet. Every time I tried to move on, Mom's words came back to haunt me. You didn't give her a chance. So a week later, I found myself parked outside Dean's house. His place was exactly what I'd imagined. Clean, modern, sterile. A life measured in symmetry and success. The kind of order Carol could never live in for long. When he opened the door, he looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. For a split second, I almost turned back. Linda, he said, recognizing me immediately, I figured you'd show up. May I come in? He hesitated, then stepped aside. The house smelled faintly of coffee and rain-soaked carpet. I sat on the edge of his couch while he poured us both a cup. I didn't come here to justify what I did, I said quietly, but I need to understand what happened. He handed me the mug, his expression unreadable. What happened, he said slowly, is that your sister nearly made me believe in something I should have known was too good to be true. I stayed silent. He ran a hand through his hair, then let out a dry laugh. I've dated women before who wanted money, status, security. It's part of the game, but Carol, she made me believe she was different. Said she'd been hurt, used, abandoned. I thought I was saving her. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot. Imagine realizing the person you love was never real. The words hit harder than I expected, because I'd seen that side of Carol too, the way she could make anyone, even me, pity her. I finally asked, when did you know? He took a deep breath. After you left the wedding. I went to her dressing room. I didn't even ask about Lucas right away. I just said your name. The look on her face. It was like watching someone's mask fall apart. She didn't even deny it, Linda. She just broke. Started begging me not to leave. Said she could explain everything. He paused, his jaw tightening. But I couldn't stay. I felt sick. The image burned in my mind. Carol in her wedding dress. Mascara running, realizing her empire of lies had finally crumbled. Dean leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You were right about Lucas. I checked her old phone records. Dozens of calls, months of messages. Some of them while she was with me. He swallowed hard. But what really gutted me was finding pictures of her kids. 7 of them. She'd told me she couldn't have children. I blinked. She told you that? He nodded slowly. She said she'd always wanted to be a mother, but couldn't. I thought that's why she loved mine so much. He gave a humorless laugh. Turns out she already had more than she could handle. I didn't know what to say. My chest felt heavy. Shame, anger, maybe even sorrow. Dean, I said softly, she didn't always used to be like this. Something broke in her after our dad died, after Mom gave up. She learned early that love was a transaction. He looked at me then, not with blame, but with understanding. Maybe, but it doesn't excuse what she did. No, I agreed, it doesn't. We sat in silence for a long moment, the rain ticking softly against the windows. Then I said what I'd really come for. I need to ask you not to press charges, not against her, not against anyone. He frowned. Why? Because if you do, it won't just ruin her. It'll take down our mother, our uncle, everyone she's been supporting with that money. It's not right, but it's the truth. They'll lose everything. Dean stared at me for a long moment. Then, to my surprise, he nodded. I'm not a vengeful man, he said. I just want this behind me. Tell your sister she doesn't have to look over her shoulder, but she needs to know. She killed something that could have been real. He got up and walked to a small drawer near the window. When he came back, he held something out to me. A small velvet box. Inside was the engagement ring. Elegant, understated, the kind of beauty Carol never appreciated because it couldn't be flaunted. Give this back to her, he said quietly, or throw it away. I don't care anymore. I stared at the ring, the diamond catching faint light from the rain outside. She won't want it, I said. He gave a bitter smile. I know. When I left his house, I sat in my car for a long while, the ring box heavy in my hand. I thought about the girl Carol used to be, the one who shared my bed on stormy nights when Mom was too drunk to come home, the one who used to whisper, someday we'll have everything we want. Somewhere along the line, she'd decided that everything meant money. As I drove away, I realized something cruel but true. In trying to protect her from herself, I'd only confirmed her worst fear, that I could destroy her as easily as she destroyed others. And maybe that's what scared me most, because a small, ugly part of me didn't regret it. For a few days after meeting Dean, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I looked at the engagement ring sitting on my nightstand, it felt like a silent accusation, proof that in one act of revenge, I had burned the last bridge connecting me to my family. Mark tried to be supportive, but he didn't really understand. "Evie, you did what anyone would have done," he said one night while washing the dishes. "Your sister was using people. She got caught. That's not on you." I nodded, but deep down, guilt gnawed at me. It wasn't just about Carol. It was about Mom, too. About how easily she'd dismissed me. How she'd made it clear that in her world, love was something you earned by being useful. A week later, I made my decision. I was done. That afternoon, I called Mom. She answered on the second ring. "Evie." Her voice was cool, detached, as if we hadn't shared blood or history. "I was wondering when you'd finally call to apologize." "I'm not calling to apologize," I said firmly. "I'm calling to say goodbye." There was a pause, then a short, humorless laugh. "Goodbye? Don't be ridiculous." "I mean it. I can't do this anymore. The guilt, the lies, the emotional blackmail. I want out." She didn't reply at first. I could hear her lighter click in the background, the faint sound of her taking a drag. "So that's it? You think you're better than us now?" "No," I whispered. "I think I'm different." Her tone turned sharp. "You've always been ungrateful, Linda. You wouldn't have survived your childhood if it weren't for me and your sister." "I barely survived because of you," I shot back before I could stop myself. "You don't even realize what you've done. You raised us to believe survival was more important than decency." "Decency doesn't feed children," she hissed. "No," I said quietly, "but it keeps you from selling your soul." The line went silent. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "You'll regret this. Family is all you have." "Not anymore," I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking when I set the phone down, but for the first time in years, I felt free. Empty, but free. That night, I sat at my desk and drafted a message to Carol. I didn't want another screaming match. I didn't want closure. I just wanted finality. "Linda, text. I'm done, Carol. Don't contact me again. I wish you the best, but I can't be part of this anymore." The reply came 5 minutes later. "Carol, wow, took you long enough to show your true colors." Carol, "You're jealous, Evie. You've always been jealous. You ruined my life because you couldn't stand seeing me happy." Carol, "You think your little boyfriend makes you special? You'll end up just like Mom, bitter and alone." I read her messages 3 times, then calmly deleted the thread. It was strange how quiet the world felt after that. The kids' toys were still in the corner of my living room, small reminders of chaos now replaced by an eerie peace. I picked up one of their tiny shoes, turning it in my hand, and realized something. Carol might never grow up, but those children still could. Maybe someday they'd see through the lies that had built their world. I put the toy in a box, sealed it, and left it by the door for donation. Then I took the engagement ring Dean had given me and placed it on my kitchen counter. The diamond caught the light for a moment before I dropped it into the garbage disposal and flipped the switch. The sound of metal grinding against stone filled the silence. Harsh, final, cleansing. When it was over, I stood there breathing hard, my eyes stinging. Mark came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. "It's really over now, isn't it?" "Yeah," I whispered, "it is." Later that night, I sat on the balcony watching the city lights blur beneath a soft drizzle. The air smelled of rain and asphalt, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight of my family pressing on my chest. But just as I began to drift into that fragile peace, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Unknown. "You think you've escaped, Evie? You haven't." No name, no context, just those words. The chill that ran through me was instant, electric. I stared out into the dark street below. A car idled at the corner, headlights dimmed. And for the first time since cutting ties with my family, I wasn't sure if I'd truly gotten away or if I'd just stepped into something worse. It's been a year since that night, since I threw away the ring, deleted the messages, and swore I'd never speak to my family again. I kept that promise. Most days now, I wake up to the sound of coffee brewing and Mark humming softly in the kitchen. We moved into a small house near the coast, quiet, warm, filled with light. On weekends, we take walks by the water and talk about ordinary things, groceries, work, the future. Normalcy feels like a luxury I once thought I didn't deserve. Still, sometimes I dream of my mother's voice, sharp, cold, echoing. Family is all you have. I wake up tangled in the sheets, heart pounding, trying to convince myself it's just a ghost from the past. I've learned something about peace. It doesn't come with silence. It comes with acceptance. I can't erase what happened, or the family I came from. I can only decide who I become without them. One rainy afternoon, a small box arrived in the mail. No return address. Mark handed it to me. You expecting something? I shook my head. The handwriting on the label was neat but unfamiliar. My stomach knotted as I opened it. Inside was a velvet jewelry case, old, faded, and smudged. The same kind of box Dean had given me the ring in. But this one wasn't empty. Inside was a folded note, a single line written in looping cursive. You can't bury what's in your blood. I froze. My fingers trembled as I reread the words, half hoping I'd imagined them. But they were real. The ink still fresh. The handwriting eerily similar to Carol's. Mark frowned. Evie, what is it? I quickly shut the box. Nothing, just spam. Some weird prank. But that night, as he slept beside me, I took the box outside and buried it beneath the old oak tree behind our house. The rain soaked through my sleeves as I pressed the dirt down with my palms, whispering to myself like a prayer, "You don't control me anymore." The next morning, sunlight poured through the window. It was a new day, and for the first time I didn't feel haunted. I'd stopped checking my messages months ago. Mom never called again. Neither did Carol. Through mutual acquaintances, I'd heard fragments of rumors that Lucas had vanished, that Carol's debts had piled up, that she was seen once in a bus station with only 2 of her kids. But I never confirmed any of it. Some stories, I've learned, don't need endings. They just fade. Mark and I married quietly at City Hall. No guests, no flowers, just us. When the clerk asked for my parents' names, I hesitated for a long time before finally writing, "Deceased." It wasn't a lie, not the literal kind anyway. It was just the truth I chose to live by. Afterward, we walked out into the sunlight, hand in hand. The world felt light again, as if I'd been carrying a ghost on my back for years, and finally set it down. I don't know where Carol is now. Sometimes I wonder if she ever found the peace she was chasing, the kind that money, men, and manipulation could never buy. Maybe she's still running, maybe she's still angry, or maybe she's just gone. I used to think cutting family out was cruel. Now I see it for what it is, survival. Not the kind my mother taught us, the desperate, clawing kind, but the quiet, gentle kind that lets you breathe. Every now and then, when I pass by a jewelry store, I catch the glint of a diamond and feel a flicker of something I can't quite name. Not regret, not pain, just memory. And I remind myself, some people heal by forgiving, others heal by forgetting. As the sun sets outside our window, Mark wraps his arm around me and says, "You ever think about going back?" I smile faintly. To what? He shakes his head. Exactly. We sit there together, listening to the waves crashing in the distance. For once, I don't feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because maybe, just maybe, this is what freedom feels like. Not a happy ending, but a clean beginning. I rest my head on his shoulder and whisper, mostly to myself, "You can't choose the blood you're born into, but you can choose the legacy you leave behind."